guys, it's Kristen and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to update a boring console to something a little bit more modern. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like this video and comment below. Hit the bell so you don't miss any content from me. Here's a quick painter's guide to get you through the process. Keep in mind that sanding in between coats is the best practice, but I don't always have time for that. First, I'm going to start by cleaning out my console. I definitely had a lot of unneeded junk. After my clean out, this became valuable space. These are the supplies you're going to need to get started. So now I'm just going to put down a drop cloth to make sure I don't get any paint on the floor. I've learned that every time you think you don't need it, you probably do. So now you just want to clean the surface. I just took a damp cloth and cleaned off everything. I usually go straight to sanding, but I'm trying to make sure I do all the proper steps for you guys. Now on to sanding, which is probably the most annoying part. I didn't have to do much sanding because this console was already kind of rough and unfinished, but I did want to focus on the big nicks and dents I had in the wood to try to get those smooth before painting. So now you're just going to clean off the surface again with a damp cloth to kind of remove all the sand dust. This step is important after you sand because you don't want any debris mixing with your paint. So now you need to choose what kind of paint you're going to use. I used water-based because it was just a faster process. And I do not have all day to be painting a console. So now you're going to pre-stain or prime your furniture. I chose to go with the same brand, but another really good primer is Kills All Purpose. Now you're going to use a very fine 220 grit sandpaper. Lightly sand the area and wipe the area clean with a tack cloth, making sure to remove all of the primer dust. Now we're going to give our console some color. I chose a water-based stain in navy. I used a stain versus a regular water-based or latex paint. I chose a solid stain. If you want a more rustic look, then you need to go with semi-transparent. Next, we're going to paint the knobs, but if you can remove them by the screw in the back, it's best to do that before painting, but I couldn't take mine off. Excuse me, my pizza was ready. Now you're going to tape off the areas you don't want the spray paint to get onto. Looking back now, I don't know if this was absolutely necessary because you're going to paint over it anyway, but it definitely just made my job easier because I didn't have to worry about the paint adhering or covering over the spray paint. So I just did 2 coats of the metallic spray paint. So now I'm just going to tape off the area that is close to where I'm going to be spray painting the remainder of the knobs. So now I'm going to take my RUSTOLEUM metallic gold spray paint and spray paint the rest of the knobs. So now I'm going to take my roller brush and get started painting on my navy paint. So as you can see, my solid stain is going on pretty well. It's really got great coverage. I'm not having to use a lot of paint to get a good coverage. You don't want to glob too much paint on. You just want enough to cover the surface because remember, this is just our first coat. The first coat is going to look a little rough, but after the second coat, you should start to see a nice smooth coverage. Don't panic. If you mess up and get paint where you don't want it, just keep a damp cloth handy so you can wipe off the excess paint. Another trick that worked really well for me is using the sharp edge of a scissors or a knife and wrapping a damp cloth around it to really get in those tight, tiny corners. It's probably best to go ahead and tape off this area that I'm doing right now before I started painting. I don't know who I thought I was thinking that I can just paint without having any type of painter's tape on here. So I finally got smart and switched to a smaller paintbrush and just got in the cracks, and just using like a light brush back and forth brushing motion, I was able to get paint in the small, tiny corners. So now I'm just going through and touching up those hard to get areas with a paintbrush and rolling on my paint around the door frame. I was too lazy to actually take the door off of the hinges, but it actually ended up working out so I could get all 3 sides of the door. If you have raised edges in the wood, you want to make sure that you take a larger paintbrush and get in between those cracks first before painting the inside. And you want to make sure that you don't leave any streaks of paint. So make sure to go back over it with your roller brush if you do see any streaks. It's best to remove the knobs if you can. It makes painting a lot easier, but my knobs were not removable, so I had to paint around the knobs first with a paintbrush and then use the roller brush to paint the rest of it. Allow it to dry. Now we're going to apply our second coat. We don't want to apply it too thick, so remember that. The second coat should cover up any imperfections and you should start to see a nice even coat. Let this dry for about 1 to 2 hours before applying your top coat. You do want to end with a top coat just to protect the wood. I used a water-based polyurethane. I found it easier just to use the spray-on polyurethane. If using this method, you want to hold the spray nozzle 12 to 16 inches away from the wood and do a sweeping motion. Some sand in between each top coat layer, but I just did one coat. Now you're going to start cutting your lines for your gold mirror paper designs. This was not working for me. I tried to use the ruler to cut straight lines, but I'm just not very good at that. So I ended up using my Cricut to make perfect lines. Don't worry, you don't need a Cricut to cut your lines for this part. I needed one because it wasn't working out for me. But you can get a ruler and measure where you want your lines and just cut the paper to the exact length. Now I'm going to apply my mirror paper to the legs of my console just for a fancier look. You can use additional adhesive if you needed to make sure it really stays, but I didn't need any additional glue. Now I'm just going to cut off the excess with a razor. Now I'm going to finish applying the rest of my mirror paper using my transfer tape. So you just really want to make sure that you have it where you want it before you really start making sure that it's stuck on. I'm using a squeegee just to make sure that it's evenly on there and there's no bubbles, but an old credit card will work just as fine. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side and make sure that they're both even. Now for this part, you are definitely going to need a Cricut or some type of cutting machine to cut these letters out. The font I used was called Love in Summer. If you don't have a Cricut machine to cut out these exact words, what you can do is cut out the lines and place them around the borders. Or you can make a really cute, simple arrow design like this. Or you can take some scrap wallpaper that has some really cute designs like this, this, or this, and put it on the sides or the front, depending how your furniture is, just to add a little something. And look at these two, about to tear up something. Look, being nosy. So this is the final product. I love the way it turned out. I was a little concerned about the color at first, but it ended up being a really good true navy. Alright guys, so there you have it. I just turned your country chic console into modern luxury. So don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe below. Yes, I need it all. And don't forget to comment below. I really want to know what you guys thought of this video. Was it helpful? Did it change the whole look of your living room? Let us know how it went. I will see you guys until next time. Remember, DIY everything. Alright guys, so there you have it. We just turned your country chic vanity. Alright guys, so there you have it. Alright guys. Alright guys, so don't forget to like this video. Thanks for watching.